Hey guys! Today we have a special guest on the channel. You probably already know him, Brandon from Aussie Wealth Creation, so we're going to be doing an interview with him just to get to know a bit more about him and what his story is and what his motivations are for starting his YouTube channel, and then also a bit more information about how he views the world and what he thinks the future will be like. So I'm super excited for you guys to see this interview. I think it's a really great one with lots of great takeaways, so hope you enjoy, and if you do enjoy this video, please remember to give it a like and subscribe to my channel if you do want to see more. Thank you so much for joining us today, Brandon. Right. It's so good to have you on the channel. I've been watching so many of your videos and I'm a huge fan. Love what you're doing. Can you tell us a bit about who you are and why you started your channel?
Sure. So, I'm Brandon. I'm trained as a physiotherapist of all things. When I finished my uni degree doing physiotherapy, and I just had this passion for, stock market investing and personal finance and that sort of stuff. But I didn't know anything about it really. Classic, I made so many beginner's mistakes. And after I made those mistakes, it costs you a bit of money and you're like, oh, God damn. So I just thought, maybe I should make a couple of videos just talking about how I started out and some of the mistakes I'd made, so that maybe people would watch the videos and they wouldn't make the mistakes themselves. And so that's kind of where I started 3 years ago. I kind of just fell in love with it, and people started watching the content, which I was super pumped about. So I just kept learning more and more about investing and personal finance, and 3 years later I'm here and quite a few more people are watching the content, which is cool. And now I can do it full time, and I really sink a lot of hours into trying to learn more and more and more and just present what I find or what I learn about in videos that people can watch.
That's awesome. I love how you really do break it down for people and make it easy for them to understand how to get started with investing.
That's the aim.
Yeah.
That's the aim. Fingers crossed.
I think you do a great job.
Oh, thanks.
And so where did you get that first initial spark of inspiration from?
Part of the motivation to start the channel was the fact that I messed up a fair bit at the start. But I think the inspiration for this whole YouTube journey was watching other YouTube channels that dealt with personal finance and investing at the time. I just started watching them consistently, and I was seeing their subscription numbers just go up and up and up and up. And I was like, okay, maybe there's something here. Maybe there is a little bit of demand for people that do want to watch YouTube videos about stock market investing. Do people really want to learn about stock market investing? It seems to be quite a boring topic, but obviously proof's in the pudding, and these guys were gaining heaps of traction. So kind of my inspiration to really push hard and start to grow the channel a little bit more. Yeah, it's a combination of that and the fact that I just kind of wanted to get a bit of a message out there for people in Australia, because there's really, at the time, there was no one. I think there was one other person. I don't know if you know Canna Campbell, her YouTube channel Sugar Mama.
Yes.
Yeah. So I think she was the only person that really spoke about this stuff as just an individual in Australia. Yeah, so I think that's probably some of the factors that influenced me kind of getting into it and being inspired and starting to create content around it.
So where did you come up with the name Aussie Wealth Creation?
To be honest, this is I wish this was a cool story, but it's super boring. I just wanted to get started making videos, and I was like, channel name, Aussie stock market, Aussie this, Aussie that. And I was just like, wealth creation, Aussie. And I was just like, Aussie Wealth Creation. Type it in, enter. To be honest, I'm so surprised that I've gotten the channel's grown to where it is now, because I made the logo is so unprofessional. I made it in 5 minutes in Photoshop. To me, I just look at it and I'm like, man, I've really got to change that logo. I wish there was an exciting story about Aussie Wealth Creation, but it was literally just me sitting in my bedroom one time, tapping on my computer, just being like, all right, I'm starting a channel. Here we go. So that's just how it happened.
I think that's how all great businesses and ideas start though. You just, okay, I'm just going to do it. Just going to get it out there, It's
why rebranding companies exist, I guess. Yeah. So all right, you made so many mistakes when you started this thing. I'm going to rebrand it for you.
For sure. So true. What are you passionate about with investing? Why does it mean so much to you?
Yeah, I think I'm really passionate about it because a lot of people think about it as gambling, which I don't think about it at all, because I'm a long-term investor and all that sort of stuff. But the stock market is, from what I've learned, by far the most achievable way to generate wealth in the long term. And I think it's the most reliable as well. The historical data, which dates back decades in Australia, more than 100 years, it shows that, sure, in the short term, we don't know where the stock market's going to go up. It could go up, down, or sideways. But if you just zoom out and you just keep zooming out and you take the average over an extended period of time, then, even if you're just buying the basket of the 500 largest Australian companies or 200 largest Australian companies, then if you hold it for a long time, generally you're all right. Obviously, it's very accessible because unlike real estate, you got to plonk down like tens of thousands of dollars, hundreds of thousands of dollars just to put down a deposit on some places. So it's immediately accessible to young people, and young people don't do it enough. Like with stock market investing, they just don't. Usually their their big investment is their first home, which a lot of people wait until they're, in their 30s. But if you switched on when you're 20 and you wait till you're 30, then you've lost 10 years of compounding essentially. So yeah, I just think that not enough people do it. I kind of just got super interested in it. I mean, I love looking at the whole compounding side of thing, just watching money turn into more money, and eventually it gets to a point where, you can switch it to passive income, dividend income, whatever, and it's financial freedom. But it's just crazy that just not enough young people do it. They just wait for way too long. That's kind of what gets me hyped up about investing. It's like trying to get more people into it.
That's really cool. I love that. And what is your goal at the end of the day? Like, why are you saving and investing like so much?
My personal goal, well, I've got a couple of goals. I don't know. The way I think about goals is a little bit different, I think, to most people. Like when it comes to the YouTube channel itself, I don't really set myself a long-term goal because I feel like trying to put a number as to future growth or whatever, it's so variable that it's so unlikely that the number that you set is going to be even close. Like the channel could stop growing tomorrow or it could grow 10 times faster in the future. So it's like, I don't know how far that's going to go. But in terms of my personal financial goals, I've always had like this cool idea in my mind that if I can be really diligent with money and just like super switched on, I can try and get a house paid off relatively quickly in the grand scheme of things. I can get, a car paid off. And, once I've got those two big ticket items locked down, then immediately I'd feel like I've got a bit more financial freedom. So yes, I do my investing and that sort of stuff on top of that. But really my overarching financial goal is to get me into that position first, because like I feel like I'm very entrepreneurial as a person. So I want to try and build big businesses. I feel like this should be everyone's dream. They want to build something that helps them deal with whatever issues they care about, whether it be fake eyelashes or something, or whether it be, like computers or whatever. People should strive to put any capital they can to build something that will help in whatever they care about. So I want to get myself to kind of that stepping stone so that I can launch from there and try and build something bigger. Yeah.
Awesome. That's such a great goal.
What about you? I want to know what are your goals with money?
Well, I actually do have like a hard goal of like, I want to get to $1 million because at that rate,
that'd be crazy.
Basically your money just makes more money and it will cover all of my expenses. So I won't actually have to work, but I think I'm one of those people, I always will be working on something, whether it be a business or YouTube or something. But it would be so good to have that freedom just to be like, oh, you know what, this project doesn't excite me, so I'm gonna say no. Whereas at the moment, I can't really do that. Yeah, so that's my long-term goal. And then also I think starting a business is amazing. Like there are so many problems in the world and so many ideas that just haven't been discovered yet,
Sure.
And to be able to push our society forward in a positive way would be so cool.
Yeah, I agree. Well, I like that goal. That's a good goal. And I mean, you think about like hitting $1 million, then if worse came to worse, like even if you're trying to launch from there, if worse came to worse, then you just sink that $1 million into some diversified dividend portfolio and you probably get $50,000, $60,000 a year. Yeah. So if you hit that, you just be like, all right, I know I'm pretty good from here. Now it's just like, all right, let's launch. Let's do something else.
Yeah.
It's good fallback.
I agree. I think it's and it seems like a lot, but I feel like there are so many goals that I've set for myself that I thought were impossible, at some point in time. So I think it's important to have those big goals,
Well, you get there. I think it's like a Bill Gates quote or something where it's like people overestimate what they can do in 1 year, but they underestimate what they can do in 10 years. So I just go with that. It's just like, yeah, sure, maybe you're working on something big. You might not get it done this year, but you get it done in 10 years. So give it a crack. Yeah. I mean, if you care enough about it, give it a crack.
Yeah, I agree completely. And where do you go to learn?
Where do I go to learn about stock market investing and that sort of stuff?
Yeah, or just like your passions in general.
Yeah, well, I over the past maybe 4 or 5 years, I used to, when I was a kid, I used to be like a bit more on the lazy side. I did pretty well at school, but I wasn't super interested in learning. And over the past kind of 3, 4, 5 years, I've really been more interested in just learning about stuff. So for the stock market, I started learning just by listening to YouTube channels and listening to other people talk on TV programs and whatever. I realized that is not a good way to learn about the stock market. It causes you to become very biased very quickly versus like to do with certain companies. So if you're looking at getting started for any viewers watching interested in getting started with stock market investing, I recommend just learning from people that have done it before and done it really successfully and have written, books about it. So like you can go the furthest way back, like Benjamin Graham started the whole value investing trend and he wrote The Intelligent Investor. That's like a brutal book to try and read though, so I don't recommend people start there. But even people that have done pretty well, like Phil Town is one that I talk about all the time on my channel. He wrote a book called Rule 1 Investing, which I think is the best stock market book that anyone's ever written. So I read that and I was like, man, this just makes so much sense. Like you can tell that he knows what he's talking about. He's been there and done that, and now he's just passing on this information to you. So I think, learning from people that have actually done it and have found good success, like Peter Lynch is another one. One Up on Wall Street's a great book. He managed to hold a 29.2% compound annual return for 13 years. That's insane. And even if you're not reading books, just like paying attention to interviews that they do, letters to shareholders. Warren Buffett does the annual letter to his shareholders. You can just learn by osmosis through the best investors, I suppose.
Yeah, it's so cool. I love reading and like absorbing information that way, because it's kind of like having like Warren Buffett as a mentor.
Yeah, exactly right. Yeah, I used to hate reading too. Like I just did not like it. And even now I'm not the biggest fan of reading. My eyes just drift when I'm reading. But yeah, if you're really starting to get interested in this and in any topic, I find as soon as I found that topic I was interested in, then reading became a breeze. So yeah, I definitely, even if you're not a big reader, I definitely encourage you, if you're interested in a particular topic, try and read about it, because I find that reading about stuff you're interested in is so much easier.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah. Also, have you tried Audible?
I've just recently signed up. I listened to The Wolf of Wall Street as my first book with my free credit. I listened to The Ride of a Lifetime, which is Bob Iger, who's Disney's now former CEO. He wrote about his CEO tenure at Disney. Really interesting book about company management and how to be a good leader of a company. And now I'm slogging my way through like this 30-hour, they call it like this lecture course series of economic history, because I've never been one to look back into history. I'm always like looking forward into the future. I think there's value in learning about economic history, especially for this sort of stuff. So I'm just trying to slog through. It's not a great thrilling ride, this massive 30-hour course on economic history.
Wow, that sounds so boring. No offense.
Yeah. I mean, some of it's hard. I mean, sometimes I listen to it at night and I fall asleep and I forget where I'm up to. But yeah, it's generally good. Even if I'm not paying 100% attention, still good to kind of learn just the general idea of how commerce and trade worked in like late medieval times, and as it progressed, what things were implemented to make trade better and economics better and that sort of stuff, because it makes sense on how our modern society was kind of built over time. But I'm still early days. I can't speak for anything past 1700 at the moment.
It's so cool because, yeah, you're so right. Like everything that we have today was built on top of something, and there are so many things that still probably don't make sense because of that legacy, thing that's been built up.
Why does it happen like this? Oh, because we've always done it like that.
Yeah.
A lot of times that just doesn't make sense.
Yeah, exactly.
It's just the way it works.
I know, it's the way of the world. So who inspires you the most? Like people, companies?
I think people more so than companies. Like there are some great companies out there, but there are some real bad companies out there. For me, people could probably guess this if they follow my content like a million miles away. Probably my two biggest influences are Elon Musk and Warren Buffett. I really admire Warren Buffett for really the rational approach that he takes to investing, and being very calm when he's looking through different annual reports and having the right temperament to make good decisions when it comes to investing. So I really admire the way that he goes about it, and I think that his structure, finding companies you understand with competitive advantages, finding good management teams and buying at margin of safety, like I just completely respect that is the right way to go when it comes to long-term investing. So I respect Warren Buffett. And then kind of on the flip side, I respect Elon Musk for not being just the person that moves money around the company, but he's kind of a leader of a business that kind of leads by example. Like there's examples where he was getting the Model 3 production ramp up and he was sleeping on the factory floor trying to reprogram the assembly line and whatever. So I admire him in the sense that he will never dish off blame to someone else. Oh, why didn't this happen? Oh, it's because this person is like, all right, I got to fix it kind of thing. He thinks about big goals. I like thinking big as well. He obviously thinks massive, like going to Mars and that sort of stuff. So I admire that as well.
Yeah. So
what about you? Who do you admire?
I love Elon Musk. I think he's doing so many amazing things and like things that you really did think were impossible, and now he's doing it. I think that if anyone said they would start, I'm just going to go to space and I'm going to invest money into building rocket ships and stuff, people would be like, you're nuts. Like, and people did say that, but look at him now. Like SpaceX is going into space. He's working with NASA, and I love that. I love that he's trying to push us forward, because I feel like before him, that obviously there are people that are trying to do that, but he's trying to take that even scale. Exactly, like massive like leaps and bounds, and really like space, it's a whole other world. Like it's massive, and there are so many resources, and you know, here we are on Earth fighting over small like resources that we have when it's endless.
Yeah, wars are based on resources in a lot of cases. Crazy. Where space has a lot of resources. Yeah, the funny thing with Elon and his space exploration is, I think what was the first moon landing was 69. That's so long ago. We haven't been back to the moon since 1969. Are you kidding me? Like, it's crazy. It's 2020. I like that when he goes into an industry, he goes in to disrupt it. He's like, no, I don't accept the status quo. I don't accept the fact that, we went to the moon in 1969. We're going back. We're going further. We're going to Mars, and I'm going to do it. And I don't care if you say I can't do it. I'm going to show you that I can. I admire that.
I agree, and I think it's those people that are really going to change our world for the better. And I feel like even just with electric cars, it's just such a simple idea, and so many people have thought of it, but nobody really took that initiative to build like a fully electric car. And
just a big
that
one
to
of
me
those
is
with
wild.
Wheels on it.
Yeah.
It's a big phone with wheels on it, essentially.
Exactly. And there are so many other problems, that's the thing. And I think it's great because he serves as like somebody that's trying to inspire others to do that, because, he's not perfect by any means. He's made so many mistakes, but he's open about it. And like, I think that's what's also inspiring as well. Like he's human.
I feel like, no one's ever perfect. If you see like in the media, the representation of a perfect human, I would be like, I'm skeptical. Like if there wasn't chinks in the armor, if there wasn't flaws somewhere, then I'd be like, I'm skeptical that this person is actually that great.
Yeah, exactly. I love seeing that, the people that are a bit weird, a bit like on the outskirts, it's important. And what philosophies do you live by? What are some lessons that you've learned that you're like, this is like core to who I am?
I think I've learned this mostly from, you learn it from life experience, but the person that hammered it home was Ray Dalio, and that is to always form your own opinions based on the research that you do. I feel like a lot of the issues that we're facing in the world at the moment is because people cling to things that other people say. Someone told me that the sky is pink. And I'm like, sky's pink. That guy told me. I admire the general philosophy of taking the time to do the research, to look at the science, to look at the studies, to look at the evidence, and then not folding to confirmation bias. I feel like that's particularly, obviously, with investing, that's such a big thing, is that you can't fall to confirmation bias, because if you do that, you're just going to lose money, because you're going to believe that, the future of energy generation is coal, and then that's not going to turn out to be correct. And because you've let your confirmation bias convince you that the future is coal, I've always sought out these articles that tell me coal is the future, even when it's obviously not. As an investment philosophy, like, that's just going to screw you over if you're investing. But I think that's just an important thing for people to live by, is just to form their opinions based on evidence and facts, and not so much on what they already believe to be true. That's probably the biggest thing that I would live by. What about you? Do you have any good answers for this one? It's a hard question to answer, because you're like, I probably have a million, but it's just like, what are the things that are core to who I am? I don't know, it's hard.
It's hard. I
And
like
treat people
yours.
nicely. That's a nice one.
Yeah.
I think too many people don't treat other people nicely. We just need to treat people nicely.
I know, it's such a simple one, but
Yeah.
I think that's probably the one that's core to me. I guess keeping an open mind about people. Like, you
Yeah,
don't
yeah.
know what people have been through. You don't know
Exactly.
why they act the way that they
Yeah.
do. So it's kind of like you do need to treat people nicely because you never know. Like, maybe that person is acting out because
Yeah.
they've lost someone. And I think not taking them on face value
Yeah.
and giving them the benefit of the doubt is important
Yeah.
because we all have our days where we're not who we want to be.
Yeah.
So I think if you can give that to someone else and do nice things for them and treat them well, then they'll feel good about it and hopefully spread that to other people. So I think it's kind of
agree.
like reciprocal, you know, if you
Yeah.
can do something nice to someone, then they can share that positivity with
Yeah,
other
for sure.
people. I agree with yours as well because there's so much fake news and it's so hard because all
It's
the big
crazy.
social media platforms, it's so hard for them to fact check every single thing that gets published. And so it's almost like, how can we fact check
Yeah,
ourselves,
super
you know?
hard. Did you listen to the Elon Musk interview with Joe Rogan recently?
I listened to parts of it, yeah.
Yeah. Because they talked about that for something that came out of that interview, which kind of blew my mind. It's just like, where do you go to get an unbiased opinion of, or an unbiased view of a particular issue? I don't know. Mainstream media will all report on it, but they've all got their own agenda. Politicians have their own agenda. People have their own agenda based on what they believe in. It's like, where do you go? Especially on issues that are not so much science or evidence-based, because obviously if it's science or evidence-based, you just go to like publications and scientific articles, but it's like, where do you go?
Even those, like sometimes they're funded by big corporations, like,
Yeah,
you know, the
exactly.
tobacco companies,
Yeah,
like
yeah.
they were funding all these research papers in science and
Yeah.
these scientists were publishing articles like, no, tobacco smoke doesn't kill you,
Yeah.
no.
talking
And it's
about?
like,
Yeah.
you can't even trust
Paid
the
off scientists to
scientists.
come out, paid them off to come out and say it.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
There's a business idea right there, like a website where you can fact check things.
Yeah.
Wouldn't that be cool?
I think that some news outlets are trying to do that more and more, but at the end of the day, it's going to be impossible. Like if you're a business that rides on revenue from A, B, C, or D, then it's going to be hard to be completely unbiased. But yeah, maybe that's how we're going to change the world. Who knows?
Yeah.
Make some company that is unbiased. But I think it's incredibly hard to do. But
Yeah.
I think you have to just take it on a case-by-case basis and apply the idea that you're not falling just into a confirmation bias, that you actually are taking in both sides of the argument and coming to a conclusion based on what you believe to be true, based on the best evidence you can find.
Yeah, totally agree. I love that. It is so important to see other people's perspectives.
Yeah, definitely.
You know? What are you really passionate about? You've obviously spoken about investing and
Yeah.
money, but what are your other passions and interests?
Passions in it. So I'm obviously a big believer that we need to do something about climate change. That's right up there with my passions. More generally, like I love AFL. That's a big passion of mine. So I've been hurting that we haven't had any football for a while because I love watching the footy. Geez, my passions, investing obviously in personal finance and that, but that almost goes without saying. Tesla. No, I like that. That all relates back to renewable energy and climate change. But I love the idea of electric transportation and that sort of stuff. Star Wars. I'm a big Star Wars fan. Yeah, I don't know. I think that they'd be my main passions. What about you?
I also am very passionate about renewable energy and the
Yeah.
future and things like that. I think I'm really passionate about traveling. I love
Oh, yeah.
traveling,
Yeah.
visiting new places. It kind of makes me feel small in a great way,
Yeah,
because
yeah.
when you're stuck in Australia and you just think, this
is
is
a
the
pretty big
world.
place, though.
Yeah, it is pretty big.
But yeah, you're right.
But then when you go to other places, it's kind of like seeing, like I went to Tokyo recently.
Right.
And going there was just so strange because it was like completely different to what we have in Australia.
Yeah.
And they've been doing things like so totally different to what we're doing it here, but they're living well, like they're doing
Yeah.
fine. So I think it's kind of gave me that perspective of there are other ways of living, there are other ways of being, and one person's way of living and being might be completely different to someone else's, but that's okay, And
No, I
it's
get that.
so cool to see all that technological advancement.
Yeah, apparently
Transport.
I'm a travel noob. I've been to New Zealand and New Caledonia.
Oh, really?
That's it.
You gotta get out
I know. But that's the one thing that I would like to do is go and look at places that are radically different to Australia and just kind of learn how it works. But I just kind of have an interest, like I'm not a huge traveler yet. I hope to in the future, but I'd have a big interest in just like what I said, learning how things still work perfectly, but in a completely different system to what we're used to. Like, for instance, I can't even remember what language it is, but there's like no word for thank you. Like, thank you doesn't exist, or like please and thank you don't exist. It's just almost like a given, like given respect. I kind of look at little quirks like that. It makes sense. Like, why do we say thank you? 99% of people are being nice to each other. Why do we have to say that every time? But it's just the way that we work, and it's obviously how whatever culture I'm referring to that I can't even remember, I don't even know. That's just not a part of what they do.
Yeah, it's so interesting.
Yeah.
It really expands your mind and makes you think more creatively as well. So obviously we're going through all this change and such a strange time to be alive. How have you been coping with it? How have you been finding it?
I've been coping all right. I'm luckily not very heavily impacted. The whole situation with, COVID-19, which is going at the moment, it's actually helped my various income streams go up. Like, more people are staying at home and watching YouTube videos. More people have time on their hands because they're, staying at home, working from home. They don't have to travel or whatever. So more people are learning about, stock market investing. That plus in March, because of what's happening, we had a 35% drop in the stock market. So that's kind of spurred people into trying to learn more about it. And that kind of lines up perfectly with what I do. So personally, I'm not doing too bad, but I'm very thankful about that. It was interesting early in the year. It was a bit of a struggle when we had all the bushfires, but I'm sure you guys in Sydney would know a lot about that as well. But it got pretty bad in Canberra. We had some pretty big fires south of Canberra, I think, and that was really, really nasty conditions. So that wasn't nice to live in those conditions for the few weeks that it was really bad. But yeah, overall, 2020 has not been a great year. Hey,
I know, it's really bad.
Can we just like reset it or something?
I know.
Just go back a little while.
I know. I saw this meme and it was like, someone apologized to 2019 for what we said about them. Because everyone's like, 2020, new me.
Yeah, this is going to be so good, everyone.
Yeah, exactly.
It's like, all right, it's not going to be so good.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Bring back 2019.
Yeah, I reckon. It was kind of like comparable. I remember, was it 2016 where that was just the year where all of the celebrity, like really notable celebrities just died? And everyone was like, man, 2016, I think it was 2016, they're like, this year sucks. And now living in 2020, it's like, wow, this is really bad now.
Yeah.
Hopefully it gets better. I'm sure it will.
I think so. I kind of try to see the positives. I think that it's really challenging for a lot of people, but that's why I think it's more important than ever that, we've got channels like yours that are trying to help people get better with their, get better with their money and get smarter with investing, because I think a lot of the things that are happening and like a lot of the challenges people are facing, they do have the opportunity to get out of that. And I think that's the most important thing.
That's one interesting thing, that you touch on, is that even though the situation around the world is really bad, there are opportunities that present themselves. For instance, the stock market did crash by 35%. While that means that a lot of people have their retirement, their superannuation amounts go down by 35%, which is obviously not a good thing. There's no doubt that there's an opportunity if you've been saving over the past 10 years or whatever, and you've got some money, then it presents you an opportunity where you can start putting those measures in place to start building long-term wealth. But I agree. There's no use being a pessimist in life. It gets you nowhere. I mean, you've only got 80 years on the planet, or however long the average life expectancy is. So it's just like, there's no time to be pessimistic or to hold a grudge or something. Just be optimistic and just enjoy the time you got.
Yeah, totally agree, 100%.
Yeah.
And even just now that we're all spending more time at home, like there are so many things that you can do from home, so many cool businesses. A lot of companies now, they might even look at going fully remotely. I've got a few friends and they said that their businesses aren't actually going to renew their leases for their office space. They're just going to be working from home permanently. And even companies like Facebook and Twitter, they're now looking at completely remote work. And
There've been a couple of blessings in disguise with this as well. Like there've been a couple of articles about local dine-in restaurants, and now that no one's allowed to dine in, they've had to, just to keep their doors open, to switch to only takeaway options. And now that they've switched to only takeaway, they're doing better than what they were before. They're making more sales, more customers, more people are coming in grabbing food from them, just because they were forced to stop their status quo and change their business model to something else. It's kind of like another silver lining example.
Exactly. And even like things like just going to the doctor, because I remember I went to the doctor maybe 3 weeks ago, just for like general checkup, and we just did it all on the phone. And I was why haven't we done this before? Because like, you know, why do you have to wait in a waiting room? It's always taking way too long. Sick people everywhere in the one space, and just to go there, and something you could have done easily over the phone. So now it's just like, and especially because I'm able-bodied, imagine if you weren't, you know.
Even
now
easier.
Exactly. So I think also, things like that, people are becoming more open-minded to how they can use technology in their businesses, which is cool.
Definitely. No, I agree with that 100%.
And what do you think about the future? Like where do you see the future going?
Oh, man. Well, I hope the future's good. It's probably the first thing to say. A lot of people think the future's going to be bad. You gotta think the future's going to be good. I think that there's obviously some big issues that we've got to overcome that have just been around for so long and are only getting worse. It's like, man, we really got to do something drastic about some of these things. You know, the future's obviously technology. Renewable energy is going to be a big thing in the future, and electrifying the transportation systems. Well, electrifying everything, really, because, I mean, renewable energy just takes natural forces and converts it to electricity. So we have to run everything off of electricity, basically. So I don't know. It's I don't know much about, you know, looking out into the future, but I think it's going to be interesting as the world gets, globalization becomes bigger and bigger, and it's just more commonplace to be able to go anywhere on the earth. And obviously then there's the next frontier, which is thinking about the future being out in space and, you know, going to Mars. And I don't know, I hope I'm around to see that development. Out of everything that's kind of exciting to me is to see space become like a reality, and going to space and going to Mars. Like, I think it would be crazy. Imagine if we could go on holiday to Mars. I think that'd be insane.
That'd be so cool.
But yeah, I think they're kind of my views on the future.
Yeah, very true. I agree with you. I like to see it in a positive way. Positive, but still realistic, because I think if you just think, oh, it's going to be good, then you're not really going to try and like make things better, because it really is the people that are trying to make things better in the present that will impact the future. Yeah. So
I agree. Yeah, that's another big thing that I learned, again, talking about Ray Dalio again, is that one of his big things that he always says is he's a hyper realist. So he's always like optimistic, and Elon Musk and all these people, they're always optimistic. They haven't got their head in the clouds. Like, they realize, yes, I want to get to a certain point. It's not just going to happen. They're very realistic as to where they are at the moment and where the world is and how the world works at the moment, how they have to operate within those very real bounds to progress slowly but surely towards where they want to get to. So yeah, I totally agree with that point. Be realistic.
I agree. Yeah. And any final like things you would like to, I guess, talk about?
I don't know. I think we've covered so much. We've talked about, we've been from like here to there to there. What can I say? Final thoughts, start investing. Biggest thing I'd say is, you know, get yourself switched on to how the world works and finance and economics, and put the measures in place now that are going to help you work towards financial freedom, because like anyone can get there. It's just a matter of time, especially if you just look at passive investing and the compounding effect. Like, if you compound it at 7% a year and you look at that compounding effect over 10 years, it doesn't really look like much. It's pretty disappointing. But then if you keep going and look over 40 years, then you're like, whoa, like this is mind-blowing. So I think the biggest piece of advice, maybe the thing that I've learned, is just, if you're a young person, get the things set now so that it can just keep working away over time, so that you don't miss years of compounding that could really help you in a big way get to financial freedom.
Well said. Completely agree. Thank you so much for doing this interview.
Thanks
it's so
for coming
amazing.
to Canberra and hanging out. Like,
yeah, it's okay. It's actually not too far, and the drive wasn't too bad actually. Yeah. So that's good.
Yeah. I super appreciate it. It's been really good meeting you and talking to you and discussing the world.
I know. I feel like so many synergies and so many things in common.
We do. I feel like we do have a lot in common. We think about the same stuff.
I think so. Follow the same people.
Yeah, exactly right. No, but thanks for having me on.
Thank you. Yay. Okay.
Bye. See you guys.
Thank you so much for watching this video. I hope you enjoyed it and I hope you found it useful. If you did like this video, please remember to give this video a like so that I can know what you guys like and produce more of these kinds of videos. And Brandon does have an investing course, so I've put the link in the description below so you can check it out. I've personally done this course and I think it's really valuable, so highly recommend it if you do want to learn more about how to invest. Please subscribe to this channel if you want to see more videos about how to make money, how to save money, and how to set yourself up for financial freedom. See ya!